Hello once again to another painting tutorial. In this video I'll be showing you how you can paint the dungeon tile bases found on Dungeon Saga miniatures. Using the Army Painter's range of war paints and brushes, I'll give you a few techniques that you'll get your bases painted up in no time at all. So here we have Madriga, who has been completely painted, and the only thing that's left to do is to paint the base. Now the first colour that we'll be using will be uniform grey, and what we'll be doing is using a dry brush action to get a nice stone effect across the cobbles. So using my small dry brush from the Army Painter range, I'm going to be dragging this across the cobbles, and I've removed most of the uniform grey from the brush, so if I just move it across you can just see how there we get this nice kind of dusty effect which kind of pulls more along the edges as opposed to the rest of the miniature. I'm going to complete this action across the entirety of the base. So now that the first layer of the dry brush is complete, we'll now be washing over all of this base with strong tone ink. So for this step I'm using my monster brush to apply the wash. Now this wash will create a dirty stone effect to simulate all the dirt that's accumulated over the cobbles over the years. So once the wash has dried, we can now perform a second dry brush over the cobblestones, and for this we'll be using ash grey. So as before, I'll be using the small dry brush, and I'll be focusing this dry brush mainly along the edges of the stone. So I've wiped off a little bit more paint than I did in the previous step, and this will just create a nice highlight along the edges of the stones, as opposed to going across the entire brick. So as an optional step, if you want to include some blood splatter onto the tiles, you can use the Glistening Blood paint available from the Army Painter's range of Zombicide paints, and we'll be applying splatters of this across the base. So for this step I'm using the Regiment brush, and this paint that we're using will dry and it'll have a shiny texture, so it looks like fresh blood, and I'm going to be applying it as though blood has been dripped. So I'm going to make a small pool there and a couple of more drips. And there we have the completed base. Now this technique can be used across all of the Dungeon Saga bases, regardless of whether it's an adventurer or whether or not it is a minion. If you are enjoying my tutorials, be sure to subscribe to be kept up to date with all the latest videos that I do. Additionally, if you would like to support me in making more, you can do so over at my Patreon page, which I'll pop a link to in the description below. So until next time, thanks for watching and goodbye.